The thesis I wrote analyzes the influence of Anglicism in the Italian language, comparing it with Romance languages such as Spanish, where we can notice a strong linguistic protectionism. I think it is important to preserve our language and understand its constant exposure to the linguistic influences, both for trade and for social relations. It may contaminate or enrich our language. The loan is the most immediate process by which a word passes from one language to another. However, many scholars have pointed out the contradiction calling this phenomenon with the term loan because in fact, a loan beyond depriving who is offering something belonging to himself should also assume a refund, but neither case matches any linguistic loan. There are two types of loans, the luxury one and the one for need. The loan for need determines those foreign words that enter our language as we do not have an equivalent to describe things or unknown concepts in our language. For example, coffee from Turkey, Portuguese pineapple, and computer, poker, jet from English than simply products that were not known in our country. The luxury loan occurs although there is an Italian equivalent. You choose a product because it is luxurious in terms of style and it is a trendy term. This is the case of terms used most in television and journalism, such as weekend, makeup, budget, and meeting. In my description, I have also analyzed the other phenomena that influence the language at a phonological, morphological, and semantic level, such as linguistic adjustment, false friends, and lexical casts and translations. But I believe what most influences the entry of Anglicism in our language system is the journalism and television environment. I explain, in fact, how media have a particular influence on linguistic habits. It unconsciously generates in the minds of people many forms of expression which remain impressed in mind more than most of Italian substitutes. The reason probably is due to its ability in communicating and exhibiting. We also have seen how English terms are used in politics to impress electors with new words which are comprehensible only by a certain target group of people, leaving the others such as strata obscure of the meaning, who often do not care to analyze the terms. Among the most popular words are exit poll, devolution, and spread. These factors hinder the work of linguistics consultants who want to preserve the language itself. In fact, the task of the linguistic is to propose new terms or adapt graphically and phonologically foreign words, adjusting them to the linguistic scheme of the target language, but at the same time you cannot expect speakers not to use a particular language. The work of the linguistic is very delicate because suggesting a term is a great responsibility. He must propose an alternative one with the right expressive force, able to impose itself in the language the speaker uses in everyday life. Linguistics don't understand why foreign words are mostly used even though there are valid Italian substitutes. Linguistics state that the linguistic influences are an enrichment of the language because it's always in movement, but at the same time they say that we should not risk losing its autonomy because it's the greatest identity of people. The Spanish show a great rigor regarding this fact. They want to preserve and protect their language, thanks to the work brought out by the linguistic regulatory organ RAE, Real Academia Española, which does a really difficult task to preserve the language. Despite the strong Spanish protectionism, we have seen how commercial signs for business or road signs can, however, contain Anglicism. It looks like we cannot give up using the genitive and nouns like school, park, garden. Especially in Latin America, the influence of the English language is very marked in countries such as Mexico, where we can read signs such as se renta instead of the Spanish term se alquila, because the meaning in English is to rent. We will notice an English influence in countries such as Puerto Rico and less in Cuba. I find the Spanish method a little too excessive when they translate titles of movies, names of famous people, or brands of products, because if a particular product is known all over the world with that name, it should remain such. For example, a famous film like Twilight is known in Spain by the name of Crepúsculo. The Spanish have a strong sense of nationalism, which we can notice in their rigidity in protecting the purity of their language. In my opinion, there are many ways of protecting one's language. Demonstrations such as Anna Maria Testa's campaign Dillo in Italiano, that means say it in Italian, approved by the Academy of Crusca, and a valid bilingual teaching method in school. Because if you have a good knowledge of the language, one can avoid using clumsy or inappropriate English words during a speech. Another thing is the comparison with the Spanish and French languages in order to see the reaction to Anglicism. A valid Italian substitute must be proposed when Anglicism is at an initial stage. In my opinion, the most decisive step must be made by each person avoiding the use of incorrect words as footing, that has the meaning in English of foundation, and trying to avoid linguistic fusion like the word lovare, because each speaker has the right and duty to protect his own language.